I'm sure that most of you must have found the answer for the problem which was asked in the last lecture. There was some gap because of some readjustment of lectures. So the question was very simple. The simple voltage source means this was internal construction. We had an ideal source, or maybe we can consider a, what we can say, near ideal source. Right now that is not important issue. A 200 volt voltage source, 10 ohm resistances. So that makes it effectively 100 volts and 5 ohm resistance shown in the below diagram. So what effectively we have is a voltage source of 100 volt 5 ohm resistance. A 100 volt 5 ohm resistance voltage source is going to feed my load, and I want to use this voltage right now to heat water using a heating coil. So I have to go to bring a heating coil. So when I bring a heating coil, what is heating coil? Heating coil is simply a nichrome wire having high resistance. A nichrome wire having high resistance. Now why nichrome and all that things? In fact, actually the problem in teaching anything is that when one thing is required to be explained, it is associated with some other thing, and that also needs to be explained, and that becomes a linked list, and we can't go on explaining everything. So right now let us leave that issue. So nichrome wire, so we bring the coil, heating coil. So for a given nichrome wire, what is the only electrical parameter which it can possess? Its length and thickness are what we can say mechanical parameters, or not even mechanical, some other non-electrical parameters which result into resistance, which is so the single electrical parameter which the nichrome wire or the resistance effectively is having is resistor which is having is resistance in ohms. So suppose if I bring one coil of 1 ohm resistance, one coil of 10 ohm resistance, one coil of 20 ohm resistance, and so on, and I try to connect these coils and check for which coil the water gets heated at a faster rate is a very interesting question. So we shall now try. I think there is no need to ask to wait because you had a very long wait, and those who wanted to find the answer must have found the answer. I will be explaining now the scientific method with which we should proceed for the answer. So what we can do is a very standard method is, or rather than before going for standard method, we shall try to check what would be the other options. What would be other options? So we can check if I put 1 ohm resistance, if I put coil of resistance 1 ohm, 10 ohm, and let us say, at least we shall 1 ohm, 2 ohm, 10 ohm. So we take 4 values. So what would be the heating rate? Heating rate, when we heat, we transfer heat energy from coil into water. So we want to heat the water, we transfer heat energy from coil to water. So how coil can generate heat energy? In fact it actually doesn't generate, but coil converts electrical energy into heat energy. Coil converts electric energy into heat energy. What are the units of energy and power? energy per unit time. So you are aware of horsepower, that is the 735.5 kilowatt of watts, that is the power, it is the power which one horse is normally having. It is the power which one horse is normally having, 735.5 kilowatt. Then unit of energy is it is also said to be kilowatt hours, electrical unit and all that. So let us don't spend time in that discussion, we have to move ahead. So the unit of power is watts. Unit of power is watt. That is energy per unit time. And in basic electrical engineering you must be knowing that electric power is voltage into current. Electric power is voltage into current. So electric power dissipated in the heating coil would be VAB into IA, or we say RL as the load resistance. So VL into RIL, VL into IL. But because of Ohm's law, so we have to measure voltage, we have to measure current, we have to take two readings. Instead of that, because of Ohm's law, there is a relationship that VL is equal to RL into IL. So you can use either replace VL or IL. So it is either V square L upon, what it would be? I will simply explain to you. VL and IL is VL upon RL. So it is VL square upon RL, or VL is also IL into RL. So it is IL square into RL. So V square by R or I square R is the power. Now suppose if this is somewhat simpler to work here. So if I put 1 ohm resistance, what would be current? Current would be, so what would be IL? Since there is an internal resistance of 5 ohms, so the internal resistance of 5 ohms, IL will be 100 volts upon 5 plus RL. IL will be 100 volts over 5 plus RL. So if RL is 1 ohm, then IL will be, so RL 1 ohm, IL would be 100 upon 5 plus 1, 100 upon 6. RL 10 ohm, RL 2 ohm, 100 upon 7. IL 10 ohm, 100 upon 15. IL 20 ohm, or we can take, just for the sake of change, there is no point in Y15 or Y20. If RL is 15 ohm, it would be 100 upon 20, it would be 100 upon 5 plus 15, that is 25 amperes. So in the first case, power would be I square R, so 10,000 upon 36. In this case, it is I square 10,000 upon 36. R is 1, so into 1. So next case, 10,000 upon 49 into 2. Then in next case, simple calculation I am doing, 10,000 upon 225 into 10. and it is 5 square 25 into 50. So it is 10,000 upon 36. Then 10,000 upon 36, it is 10,000 upon, if it is to be very precise, 20,000 upon 49. So which is more? 10,000 upon 36, it is 20,000 upon 49, it is means 10,000 upon 24.5. So power increases. Now here 10,000 into 10 upon 225, you will see power in from when you increase from 1 to 2, power distributed increases. When you increase from 2 to 10, it decreases. From 10 to 15, it further decreases. So you will find that if you go on increasing continuously further, it will decrease. Values you can very easily find. Or to be very precise, rather this is not the even correct method to find the maximum power. We should find it now mathematically. So mathematically when we find, we need not take any value. We should assume the variable and we should try to check when it gets maximum exactly. So we now derive the expression. So what is when I am trying to find out for which coil I will get maximum heating, means for which RL, because in the coil the variable part is only RL. So which RL will give me maximum power P? Which RL will give me maximum power P? So what I should do is I should derive an expression for power dissipated in the load for the supply given having the voltage and internal resistance. So I should try to find the expression of P in terms of RL given Vs and Rs. So it is effectively, I have got a voltage source. I am just drawing it on this side so as to create a proper board space. So rather than deriving for given set of values, we can make it variable that in terms of Vs is the voltage source and Rs is the internal resistance. It is the source and it is the load. So what would be expression now? P is equal to IL square RL. P is equal to IL square RL. So what is IL? IL is Vs upon is Rs. Rs plus RL. So P is equal to Vs upon Rs plus RL whole square into RL. So P is equal to Vs, I think this is high school algebra, nothing great. Are you getting me? For this circuit, when I vary RL, IL will vary, and I am trying to, so in this given circuit, only RL is the variable and P is the power dissipated in that load, and the formula for P is very simple. I am trying to derive a formula of P in terms of an expression for P in terms of RL. So Vs square upon Rs square plus 2 RL plus RL square into RL. So this is the expression for P. Now it's a very interesting question for which you can take a pause, think. So in this given expression, Vs is constant, Rs is constant, RL is variable. So P is a function of RL. P is a function of RL. It's a non-linear function because its square is appearing. This square is not making any difference, but the expression is between P and RL is appearing with a square term, so it's a non-linear expression. It's a non-linear expression, or something appearing in the denominator also. If variable is appearing in the denominator, then also it is non-linear expression. So for what value of Rs, for what value of RL it will become maximum? You can make a check. If RL is 0, expression is 0. If RL is infinity, then you will find that how to find expression for value of infinity. I have asked a very tricky question. I will make some small change. Expression is same. This RL which is in the numerator, I will take it in the denominator of the denominator, right? Or dividing, it is said that dividing both numerator and denominator by RL in high school algebra. I think I am spending some time, but still it is in the second year, so it is worth. So it would be Vs square upon Rs square upon RL plus 2Rs plus RL. Is it right? Rs square upon RL plus 2Rs plus RL. Now, if RL is infinite, what will happen? If RL is 0, what will happen now? If RL is 0, this term will become infinite. This term will become infinite, so power will be 0. If RL is infinite, this term will be 0. This is infinity, so power is again 0. So for both open circuit and short circuit, there will be no power dissipation in the load. Anyway, now you try to find when P would be maximum. You must have studied maxima and minima in calculus. So it is an expression of P in terms of RL. So when this expression will be maximum, so you have to differentiate this and so on. Again, it is not so easy. Now instead, I will give you a very simple trick. So let this be, it's a very is it that it is a scientific technique, whether artificial intelligence will be able to understand that? These are some very important questions. Maybe artificial intelligence may not be required to understand this, because for computer everything is very fast, but for human being to compute the answer, by one way it is simple, by other way it takes some time. So you can differentiate this completely, but differentiating this completely, this expression is in the denominator, so differentiation will take some time, it will consume your time. then if you will say, no, sir, why you worry about consuming time? The problem is how to kill the time. If it is the situation, then you can very easily try to differentiate. But in a obvious answer, what I will do, I will give you a technique. If you are able to do it on your own, you can put a pause, try to find some method by which you are able to find out the value of RL for which P would be maximum. Value of RL for which P would be maximum, you can try to find on your own, and if not, you can resume the video. So what I will do, I will put P is equal to Vs square upon Q. Vs square upon Q, where Q is, I will write it in reverse. RL plus 2RS plus RS square upon RL. Right? Is it okay? No, just some, what we can say, mathematical maneuvering. Manipulation is a bad word, so I say maneuvering. Some jugglery so as to find the answer without making any change in the value. We are not manipulating anything. We are not, what we can say, changing the facts. We are just rearranging the facts. So when P would be maximum, P would be maximum. What is Vs is constant for given scenario, given example is constant. So when P is maximum, or when this is constant, P is a constant upon Q. So the expression will be maximum when Q is minimum. So rather than finding what is P max and when it will occur, it is better to find Q min and for what value of RL it will occur. Is the idea that I have made a small change. We have to find P max. Our expression is this. We have to find when, at what value of RL P max will occur. At what value of RL P max will occur, that we have to find it out. And so for that purpose I have rearranged, and P is equal to this, Q. So at what value of RL Q min will occur. Now I think those who want to still find can take a pause, can continue their, what we can say, expertise in calculus which they must have attained in standard 12th. They can find the answer. So what we have to do is we have to differentiate the expression for Q. We have to differentiate expression for Q with respect to RL, and after differentiating for expression of Q with respect to RL, we have to find, or we have to equate it to 0. Then will be either maximum or minimum. What it would be, we can find it out. So dq dq by drl is equal to, this is 1 plus its derivative 0 plus rs square upon rl. So what would be its derivative? So 1 upon x. What is derivative of 1 upon? If y is equal to rs is constant, there is y is equal to k upon x. Y is equal to k upon x. What is dy by dx? What is dy by dx? It is minus k upon x square. You, since in the first year you might have forgotten, because in MCQ you may not be required to derive the expression. So we write it as y is equal to x raised to minus 1. So derivative is dy by dx is equal to this k is minus 1 x raised to minus 2, it is minus k upon x square. So here this term is minus, or we can write rs square, as rs square is constant, so rs square into minus 1 upon rl square, minus 1 upon rl square. So we have got dq by drl is equal to 1 plus this. So this is 1 minus rs square upon rl square is dq by drl. That is the denominator, differentiation of denominator of the expression is this. And when numerator is, that is the expression power will become 0, power is Vs square upon q, when this becomes minimum. So for q minimum will occur when this becomes 0. Q minimum will occur when this becomes 0. I am not that way correct. When this becomes 0, means what? Rs square upon RL square is equal to 1. That is RL square is equal to Rs square. When this expression is satisfied, the denominator will become 0. Q will become 0 when this expression is satisfied. But does it mean it is minima? Not necessarily. So for minima means when the first derivative of an expression becomes 0, the slope of the function is 0. So it is either a minima or a maxima. To find whether it is minima or maxima, you have to double differentiate. So if single derivative, first derivative is 0, it's minima or maxima. If second derivative is positive, it is minima. If second derivative is negative, it is maxima. So we want to minima, q min, but at least let us find now RL square equal to RS square. What does it mean? If you think without much headache, you will see, yes, I got the answer. RL equal to RS, and I leave it as a homework to check. For RL equal to RS, it is minima. For RL equal to RS, it is in fact minima. If you differentiate, you get what we can say, second derivative 0. So RL equal to RS. Now it can occur also at RL equal to plus or minus RS is the actual answer. RL is equal to plus or minus RS is the actual answer. To be very precise, RL equal to minus RS can't happen. That would be what we can say infinite current, and when if R is minus RS, if RL is equal to minus RS, net resistance is 0, so infinite current and power distribution will be infinity in that case. That can't happen. Therefore, RL equal to RS. So plus minus we rule out, negative resistance can't be there. So RL equal to plus RS is the answer. So maximum power when I have a voltage source having some internal resistance and I am using it to supply it to load, then the maximum power gets dissipated. Maximum power gets dissipated in the load when the condition RL equal to RS is met. If RL is less than RS, the power dissipated is less. If RL is equal to more than RS, again power dissipated is less, and the dissipated power in that case, what is power? Power is P is equal to Vs square upon total R, or it is RL or RS plus RL, same is equal to IS, not that way. P is equal to VL into IL, that is equal to, what is VL? VL is not Vs, because some drop will occur here, or it is equal to VL into Vs upon RL plus RS. So by various methods you can derive the expression for it. Or you can express P is what we have used, P is equal to IL square RL. What is IL? IL is Vs upon RL RS plus RL square RL, and maximum P, and P max occurs when RL is equal to RS, so it would be Vs upon 2RS square into RS, that is equal to, it gets cancelled, Vs square upon 4 RS. That is the P max. P max which it occurs is this. Sorry, Vs upon 4. I will verify, go it further. 4 RS square into RS. This RS gets cancelled, so that is equal to Vs square upon 4 RS. So maximum power gets transferred. Maximum power gets transferred when load resistance equal to source resistance, and the value of such maximum transferred power is equal to Vs square upon 4 into RS. So this is called as maximum power transfer theorem. This is called as maximum power transfer theorem. In some applications for amplifier, you may find it somewhat meaningful. It is one of the classical theorems. So I think that the simpler points which I wanted to complete in the first module are over. We now switch to next module. Because there is no point in spending time on some simpler things. I will just begin with the introduction of next module, and there will be many sessions which I will use, even though in the syllabus the number of stipulated hours may be different, but the stipulated hours I will be using in such a method to ensure that the time is given more or more thrust is given to explain those points which are having higher difficulty level in understanding, in understanding. Some high school algebra type problem solving like this, which we will avoid, because this you can do something on your own. So we start with a concept of capacity. You might have heard it maybe in the junior college stage, and the most important electrical component is capacitor. Most important electrical component is capacitor. So voltage source, you are having some pseudo understanding. Current, you are having again some pseudo understanding. Resistance, you are again having some pseudo understanding. So you are aware of voltage V, current I, resistance R. V, R and R. And now we go for capacitor C. I am explaining it in very simple words. Those who are, what we can say, extremely sincere and very smart may find it is somewhat time killing, but they should bear with me, because they will also understand the crux is something different which than that which they assume. So a very simple question I will ask. Now, what is electric charge? I have given answer that it is something which we need to assume at the end. Then Coulomb's law we have to assume. We cannot question Coulomb's law and answer why. Einstein had thought of, listen very carefully, this is a very fundamental discussion. Einstein had thought of various theories. He wanted to develop something which was incomplete. What are different types of forces in the world? Gravitational force, number one. Then it is attributed to Newton. But why gravitational force? Why masses should attract each other is big question. There is no answer. What would have happened if gravitational law is the only law ruling the world? All masses which are staggered would have come together, and the whole world would have ended up in a black hole. Whole world would have ended up in a black hole. Then you will say, how you must have heard that the moon revolves around the earth and in a circular motion work done is zero. Force is there. That force results into acceleration. But since circular motion is there, means in your childhood days, you would have checked. Say when you are playing with a ball, you throw the ball comes down on the earth. Then why not aeroplane falls back on the earth? Why not moon falls on the earth? Such questions would have asked. Then that answer, few very elite class of parents would have answered effectively by giving some examples. Then you will say that why earth, which is a, what we can say, there is no vacuum in between, so that moon is revolving around the earth. Why earth itself doesn't shrink? Why earth itself doesn't shrink? If it stops rotating, will it shrink? And there are many questions. So if gravitational law is the only law, then world would have ended in a black hole. That something doesn't happen because of multiple reasons. Then if electrostatic and electromagnetic, again there is difference. Magnetism is something different. Right now, for the want of time, we can't go into details. At some other time I will explain. If electric field is there, then if like charges repel each other, if only one type of charge there in the world, that would have gone away, away, away. If there is other type of charge, and then that rotates like Earth or Moon rotating around the Earth. So proton and electrons rotating. But in the nucleus, there are multiple protons. How they can remain separate inside the nucleus? Why don't they become one? Then, so gravitational force, gravitational field theory, electromagnetic force, and nucleus remains intact. There are two other forces, nuclear forces, strong force and weak force. I think right now it's not time, but you can think on your own. So gravitational field, gravitational force or gravitational field, electromagnetic field, nuclear field. Einstein tried to develop uniform field theory, which he could not complete. I think few of you can take up that work. Okay, anyway, leave that on the side. So electric charge. So electric charge, what is the property of electric charge? Electric charge tries to distribute itself away, away, away. But we assume that nucleus remains intact. Nucleus contains protons, electrons revolve around. So, and electrons are loosely connected. So, for us, the concept of charge is excess electrons is positive charge, excess electrons is positive charge, shortfall of electrons is negative charge. So, we consider electron as the minimum value charge particle which is movable. Protons are also there, but those don't normally move. So, the concept of charge for us is in the form of electrons. So what is a battery? What is a battery? Is it clear now? So we try to, because that is very important. That is very important. What is a battery then? So you should understand very clearly. So battery is a voltage source. Battery is a voltage source. So this is positive. This is negative terminal of the battery. So what we said, that concept of charge is only in terms of electrons now. Sufficiency or deficiency, or not sufficiency, excess or deficiency. Now what is battery? And then again we are having various logics, conductor, which you have pseudo understood, conductor, insulator, semiconductor. So, what battery? In battery, we say battery possesses voltage. Means what? Or some volts. We have also heard it is EMF. EMF. You have also heard it is electromotive force. Electromotive force also. So, battery, what is the role of battery terminals? What is the role of battery terminals? Again, it's very interesting question. We will explain it because I will take some time, because these are the fundamentals. These must be very clear beyond any doubt. This must be very clear beyond any doubt. There should not be a single doubt in your mind of these concepts. So, what a voltage source at an abstract level is difficult, but you bring a battery cell. You bring a battery cell which you can see, which is having one positive terminal, one negative terminal. Let us say also give 1.5 volts. What is that? What exactly it does? So, and what is the equivalent example on physical side which I can give. Number one, I will ask few questions. We will end this session. You try to think on these questions on your own at your back of your mind, and then you come with the answer. So, listen with now, since I have explained so many things, but to deeply explain everything I can't give that much time, because I can give but you may not get that much time to watch. So some points may get not in the syllabus, otherwise it is assumed, but what I think is somewhat difficult for to understand, I am trying my level best, but I can't do it entirely, because otherwise only one module will be there and will be finished. So that we can do. So we have to optimize. So it is electromotive. I will ask few questions. It is electromotive force. It is electromotive force. That is, it is forcing the electrons. So negative terminal of the battery is forcing the electrons to move, and positive terminal of the battery is attracting the electrons. I think this is very simple way. Negative terminal of the battery is forcing electrons away, and positive terminal of the battery is attracting electrons. So it is an example. Now I will give you a hint. On water flow, we will try to establish a perfect analogy. Water flow and electricity. We will try to establish perfect analogy. So in terms of water flow, I will give various examples. Water level, water pump, actual water flow, water tank. Like that on electric side, electric voltage, electric current, resistance and capacitor. So all these are very interconnected. Then I will ask some questions which you find not so easy to answer. If I connect some 1 ohm resistance, or 10 ohm, that is not important. So what I am doing, what is resistance? Is some metal wire. So this terminal is forcing electrons and this is pulling electrons. If one terminal is forcing electrons, other terminal is pulling electrons. When electrons start moving here, when electrons start moving from here, and that is continuous. The question is, so what is electric current? dq by dt, rate of flow of charge. So electron value means electron flow is reverse because electrons are negative, and one electron is having 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb. So that way there will be current. So I am having a simple question. The simple question is, if this terminal, if this battery is forcing electrons from this terminal, this is pump, this is attracting electrons, why electrons don't accelerate? So if a battery is connected, a wire is connected, some resistance is obviously there, why electrons don't accelerate? If electrons accelerate, then the current will continuously increase. Why current remains constant? Why current remains constant? Is it clear? So when I connect, electrons should start accelerating and so current should continuously increase. Why it doesn't happen? I want an answer from you. I will give you a hint. You, and now you don't come to college, but after a few weeks you will be coming to college. So when you come to college, or you used to go to your junior college on two-wheeler, you are having an accelerator. What is the name of that particular entity which you hold in right hand? Accelerator. Accelerator. My question is very simple, and its answer and this answer are the same. When you start moving, and if you put accelerator in a fixed position, means you are accelerating. Acceleration means speed should increase. If you put accelerator at some constant position, when you are at rest position, when you start accelerator, your speed increases, and at some point it becomes steady. So the question is, if some fixed accelerator will give us a fixed force, or accelerator will give us a fixed acceleration. When we give fixed acceleration, speed is not increasing, speed is constant. Why? And what is answer to that question? The same answer is to this question. The answer is friction is the answer. You think on it completely, we will answer in the next time. Thank you.